it's important to be grounded, to be a working professional.
Also building something and making a difference in the lives of others.
You can change at any time, and your brain is going to be excited that you want to.
I didn't have to feel guilty about that choice.
So I definitely would just challenge that notion.
Oh, I love that. So many amazing things. Welcome back to I Can Fit That In. Today's guest is one of the leading voices in mental wellness and psychological resilience, and she is bringing a wealth of insight to help us understand ourselves, our patterns, and how we can actually move through the things that hold us back. Dr. Judy Ho is a triple board certified and licensed clinical and forensic neuropsychologist, a tenured associate professor at Pepperdine University, and the best-selling author of several books that are so powerful we'll talk about today. The first including Stop Self-Sabotage and also The New Rules of Attachment. Her work blends rigorous scientific research with deeply practical tools to help people break unhelpful patterns, heal insecure attachment styles, and build healthier relationships with themselves and others. Whether she is guiding parents through the challenges of raising resilient teens or teaching adults how to overcome self-sabotage, Dr. Judy's messages are grounded in both compassion and evidence. She is also a recognized media contributor, co-host, and/or expert voice on shows like The Doctors, CBS's Face the Truth, and her own podcast, The Supercharged Life. In addition to her clinical work and media presence, Judy runs a thriving practice and leads research to improve mental health care access. Today, we are talking about what really drives self-sabotage, how attachment styles show up in leadership and ambition, and how we can take meaningful steps toward alignment and well-being, no matter our age or stage. So let's get into it. Dr. Judy, welcome.
Hi, Erin. Thank you so much for having me and for the kind intro. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you bet. Well, I am so excited to talk to you because I have such a love of neuroscience, and I found it kind of very late in life. But, one of the reasons that I found it was I was so curious on how these human brains actually function. And it was something that just really opened my mind when I started to learn about it. So tell us a little bit about you, your background, and how you got into all the amazing work that you do.
Well, it's so interesting because we all have our reasons for being drawn to the fields that we're passionate about. And for me, I think my love of psychology started in high school. I was part of the Big Brother, Big Sister program. And basically, I was just volunteering because I knew that it was going to look good on my college applications. That's why I did it at the time. But I also thought that it would sounded really fun to mentor a younger child. And really, the job was very easy. You just show up in the same place every week and you take them to have ice cream or go to the park or maybe go to a movie. And it was just so interesting because through that process, I met my mentee in the program, and she was 10 and I think I was 15. And she had just been through so much of life already at age 10. She's been out of 7 or 8 foster homes at the time I met her. Just not a lot of stability. And I just quickly learned that even though I had no knowledge base whatsoever, I was just a 15-year-old kid, just the fact that I showed up all the time, never missed an appointment with her, was consistent, that it really started to take a very positive role in her life. She felt like she could rely on me. She would share the concerns that she had. It started to give her more confidence to do better in school and to have better relationships with her foster parents. And so I just feel so happy that I was a part of her positive evolution during that period of time for about 2 years. So that was really what sparked my interest in psychology. And then I went to college, studied psychology, and then just went all the way through to my graduate programs. And here I am.
That's amazing. And tell us a little bit about your practice today. So I know you do so many amazing things. You're an author, you're a podcast host, you're a media personality, you're a professor. I mean, you have quite a busy schedule. You're also a mother yourself.
Yeah.
So tell us, what is life of Dr. Judy Ho?
Well, it's kind of crazy because it could literally be anything on any day. I don't necessarily have such a set schedule because my day could involve testifying in court as an expert witness, conducting a neuropsych evaluation on a patient at my office, teaching master's and doctoral students at the university, working on a paper or a book project, working on my own podcast, serving on a committee. I have several leadership positions as well on different board of directors of nonprofits. And so it just involves so many different things. And that's obviously just my professional life. There's also my personal life, as you mentioned, of being a mom. My toddler's 3.5, and I don't want to miss a moment with him. So it's very hard to be a working professional while also trying to be, I know it sounds ridiculous, Erin, but I know you know what I mean when I say it. It's like I'm still trying to be like the best mother in the world I can to him, right? But I'd only have so many hours and so much time and energy. And so it does feel hard sometimes to have to split that time. But I also know that, part of me wants to show my son that it's important to be grounded, to be a working professional, to have a passion or a goal in life, so that he has a model for how to do that throughout his life.
Absolutely. And I think that for boys, which I'm a boy mom too, for them to see their mothers not only working hard, but also building something and making a difference in the lives of others, that is really like true power to me. So I feel very good about the decisions I make as a working mom. And I've been building my business for almost 7 years, and I'm not always around because I do travel for work. I put a post on LinkedIn recently about the very thing of I had to choose this really important keynote that I was so excited about and in contract for 6 months to go and deliver, or a third grade graduation, which just happens to be a thing in my town. And I didn't know about it, of course, when I first signed the contract, but I didn't have to feel guilty about that choice. I could feel empowered that I made that choice. And also the fact that his dad is, ready and able to go to graduation. That's fine. That's okay. I don't have to do everything and be the perfect mom. So what would you say with those instances of there's different pulls and demands on your energy, on your time, your attention, your focus. And most of the people that listen to this podcast, they're like us, high ambition, high achievement, high performance, leadership, executive. What is it that you turn to and you feel is so helpful to stay grounded and to not get lost in the sort of emotions or negative thoughts that can come up when people have to make those choices that can sometimes be tough?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I appreciate you sharing your own personal experience too. But I think that for me, it's really just about reminding myself what my values are, like what's truly important to me. And I also think that values can sometimes fluctuate at different times. It can be different last week versus this week, and it's okay to be flexible and just making sure that I'm in touch with my top values every single day and that I'm doing something small to serve those values every single day. And so on a busy day, if I have one of my top values is community, well, it might just be a quick text to a friend I haven't talked to in a while. But if on another day, and one of my top values that always rotates through is health, on a day that I have more time, then I can do a longer hike. I can actually be out in nature more, as opposed to that really brief exercise bout that I try to get in before I start my appointments with my patients, where it's like, okay, let me just try to get 20-minute run in today. Like I don't have any more time than that. And that's good enough. And even when I'm running, I'm doing a to-do list in my head. It's not like the best, but some days are like that. But I think it's okay as long as you just kind of keep it top of mind and just be flexible with yourself and also be compassionate that not every single day is going to look the same.
I think that's so true. You just said be compassionate. And that leads me into wanting to learn more about your book about self-sabotage and some of the things that you teach, because I know I used to call myself the queen of self-sabotage. I was very, very good at it. And I was, someone who found myself in anxious thought patterns at times only because I allowed that inner critic to really get the best of me. And I believed it for too long. So what are some of the things that you teach people in your book and on your podcast around self-sabotage?
Well, I think that negative voice is so prominent for a lot of different reasons. One is protective, and it's part of our evolutionary biology, is that your brain is trying to protect you from harm. And so sometimes it just goes overboard. Obviously, certain personality traits or certain people who have had certain life experiences, they're even more prone to that than just at the very biological, all humans do this kind of level. But I also think that over time, people think of it as a coping strategy that, okay, if I'm mean to myself, then I'm going to motivate myself finally to get something done. But really, your thoughts they permeate your subconscious. And when you have thoughts like that, then your subconscious is telling you, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I don't deserve XYZ good outcomes. And over time, that will actually drive certain behaviors that are not necessarily conscious, but we're still doing them. And then it just becomes such a cycle that you don't know which one started first, the chicken or the egg syndrome. And yet it becomes a cycle that ends up feeding more self defeat, feeds self sabotage, and also feeds just a pervasive low feeling about yourself.
Yeah. Oh, I feel that so much. And one of the questions I wanted to talk to you about is about what do you do when your energy is drained? And
Mm.
from my own experience and having come out on the other side, draining my energy is something that happens, or siphoning my energy is something that happens mainly through my own thought process. And I know that. And so what I have to do when I feel like my thoughts are on the negative end and I just don't have a lot of energy because maybe I didn't sleep well, or when my
Mhm.
kids were younger, maybe, they were waking me up a lot at night. Maybe I also didn't get to eat well the day before. Just various things that can happen with our well-being that makes our mind start to think more negative. When I find that I'm in those states and I'm so depleted, that is the time where I'm like, wait a minute, I need to either rest or I need to reschedule some meetings and give myself some space. Because if I don't ground my energy and bring it out of my head and into my body, I'm going to spiral. I'm going to go down the emotional spectrum.
Mhm.
So, what happens for you and what do you see with your clients when your energy gets so drained, and how do you get back up?
Yeah, I think that when my energy gets drained, I'm been noticing sort of like these traits with myself is that I generally start to feel more irritable. Like I just have a shorter fuse and it's like such little things, but little things just annoy me more. It's not so much that I'm lashing out at people. That's not really what I do, but it's
Right.
more just like little things will just bug me.
Yeah.
And I know that it's so insignificant, but it just bothers me. So I think the irritability for sure. And then also just a feeling of overwhelm, like I can't catch up. I think that's when you know. And then that's when you know that you have to try to spend some time in the other part of your sympathetic nervous system. You can't just always be in the sympathetic nervous system. You have to also sometimes be in the rest and relaxation state, in the parasympathetic nervous system. You can't be fight or flight and going all the time. And our society, though, sort of glorifies that, right?
Yeah.
People kind of talk about how busy they are, how many hours they work, like it's a medal. And so it can be hard sometimes. It's almost like countercultural if you decide that you're going to pause or say no to something, or that, okay, I do just need like an hour to step away. But you know yourself best. And if you notice certain signs of burnout, the ones that I just shared are essentially my signs of burnout, but everybody's is different, right? Some people's signs of burnout are they just chronically feel tired. Other people, they just become really cynical or detached from their work. There's a lot of different types of signs, but whatever your personal signs are, once you notice them, you're the only person who can do something about it. You have to make that call.
Yeah, that is so true. And you're so right with the glorifying busyness. I spent a lot of years on Wall Street at Goldman Sachs. And I remember back then, I just wrote an article about this. Remember the BlackBerry? Like
Oh
we
yeah.
we would whoever had a BlackBerry, you were like really cool, right? It was like, oh my gosh, your job is really important, and people need to send you emails at night, so you have a BlackBerry. And I look at that now in the world of infinite work that we live in. It's never off. You don't
Mhm.
leave work, you don't stop work. Like it's just always there. And yet the cycle of burnout is so real. People feel like they're living on this hamster wheel, and it's just rinse and repeat every day, which is where with this podcast, I can fit that in. It's about being able to fit in the things that matter most. We are
Mhm.
never going to get more time than the next person. And
Yeah.
so, how can people fit in what matters to them most? I think one of the things that really struck a chord with me is you said it, align with their values, right?
Mhm.
So, if they are living by their values, they're more likely to choose the things that fuel them over just the things that constantly distract them or deplete them.
Mhm.
Now, there's no rhyme or reason to being perfect, and we've touched on that. But what would you say are some of the rituals? You talked to us a little bit about exercise and grounding and being in nature. What are some of the rituals that you love to practice and you see clients practice?
Yeah. So I think that it's all about, like you were saying, how do we fit this in? And I love just the whole theme of that and the title of your podcast because I think that that's so relatable. But when I talk to my patients, it's like, look, it doesn't have to be a huge hoopla. When we talk about what mindfulness is, it's like, should be able to fit that in your day, right? So I like to do practical mindfulness, which means maybe it's not 20 minutes of an uninterrupted time where I can really practice a meditation. That might not happen every day. I mean, some days it happens, but it's fewer than the days that it doesn't happen, right? So on the days that it doesn't happen, you don't just give up completely. You say, okay, what can I do today? And so every single morning I have coffee, and that's always a practical mindfulness time for me, meaning that I make my coffee mindfully. I try not to fill my thoughts with other things. I try to just observe my surroundings as I'm having my coffee, and I give myself that 10 minutes and really just focus on the physical environment and the being present in that particular experience of having coffee. You can also try to eat mindfully for the first 5 minutes that you eat, right? Maybe not the whole meal, but maybe just the first 5 minutes. Try to just allow these thoughts that come into your mind to just pass without grappling with them or holding on to them or trying to analyze them. And I think anybody can do those things. And so I really teach my patients that self-care, um, recovery time, it doesn't have to be extended. It just has to be intentional, and it has to be somewhat organized, meaning that you're prioritizing that in your day. So that's why I like doing my mindful coffee time, because that's every morning. And that is one of the first things that I do in the morning. And I'm not waiting till the end of the day when I'm already tired or drained, and it becomes harder to motivate yourself, even if it's to do something that will help take care of you.
It's so true. You and I have the coffee routine in the morning very much, we're simpatico. And it's funny because my morning routine used to be, before I was mindfully making my coffee, I would flip on my phone, I'd flip on the TV, I'd have the news going, I'd be rushing around to hurry up and get ready as fast as I could, get the kids like somewhat organized before, the nanny came, or later on taking them to school. And I just felt like I was constantly frantic. It was
Yeah.
like from the moment I woke up, I wasn't breathing,
Yeah.
the breath was only in my chest. It was never down to my belly. And I was already stressed.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, once I started mindfulness and started with, you know what, I'm just going to make my coffee and brew it rather than grab it at Starbucks. And
Yeah.
as it brews, I'm not turning anything on. I am not distracting myself with anything. I'm just going to allow my thoughts to be there. And neuroscientifically, there's that concept of thinking happens before thought.
Right.
And I was so amazed that 10 minutes of just allowing the thoughts to just do what they do, which is just natural mental activity.
Mm-hmm.
Then afterwards, I could choose what I wanted to think about. I was
Yeah.
like, wow.
Yeah. It's a training mechanism. It's like training your brain to be more efficient, to be more effective, to be more thoughtful. So I love the example that you gave. And you're right. I love the ritual of making coffee. And so obviously when I don't have time, yes, I still do drink instant coffee. No, it's still very gourmet instant coffee. It's like a place that makes amazing instant coffee. It's not just like crappy instant coffee. I'm like a coffee snob, so it's like
Me
a kind of a
too.
thing for me. But on most days, I do a whole pour over thing. So
Yeah,
that's part of the coffee ritual. And so that kind of
absolutely.
extends that time just naturally, right? Because you're waiting around for it to
Yes.
like come through the filter.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
helps a lot.
It
Yeah.
does. I know. And I call it my morning elixir because I put
Yeah.
like the collagen powder and the
Oh,
probiotic
nice.
powder and the MCT oil, all the things. So yeah, that's how I start my day, which I think is just a wonderful ritual for intentionally setting yourself up for what you want your day to be like, right? How do you
Mhm.
want to experience your day? If you
Yeah.
enter it frantic and stressed, it's going to continue like that. So
Right.
the opposite is also possible. So tell
Exactly.
me, I'm so curious about what you want to share with my listeners about your podcast and your newsletter, because I know that you have such an awesome following and your content is so high value. And I'd love for you to share more of that with my listeners.
Oh, thank you, Erin. Yeah, so I started a Substack probably a year ago when my latest book, The New Rules of Attachment, was published. And I've just really enjoyed it. I love writing this weekly newsletter, and it's definitely grown over time. And basically, every week, I talk about a timely topic related to psychology, and I answer a burning question that a listener or a reader has. And then I give a practical tip for people to improve their mental wellness every single day. And that's basically the format. And that's the format of the audio podcast, which is called, the previous podcast was called Supercharge Life. This podcast is called Mental Health Bites. And like you, I'm all about efficiency. My podcast is like 15 minutes or less every week because I think that's what I would want to listen to is like a more abbreviated version. I do also like long form podcasts a lot, but also sometimes it feels overwhelming when I see that an episode is 75 minutes.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, well, maybe I can make it just boil it down to what really, really counts and what's really going to help. And so my newsletter is like that. It's relatively succinct, but I want people to learn something about it and something about a topic that's important. And then I want them to feel empowered to exercise a evidence-based mental health tip. So that's always the way that I end all of my newsletters. And so I really enjoy it. I enjoy the newsletter. I enjoy the podcast. I give out free resources all the time. I have free resources on my website, but it's a really valuable and fun part of what I get to do. It's kind of a part of me where I can still use my expertise, but kind of be a little bit more creative while I'm doing it.
Right. Yeah. Because so much of what you do is obviously from a clinical perspective and an academic perspective, so left brained, and you have so much knowledge and you have so much to give. And so it's got to be really fun to use the right brain and be super creative in that work. So I can see that. And it comes through. Your content is fantastic. So keep everything up. And you guys, when you go and look at her, we're going to have all the links on the podcast page. When you find her, you're going to love it. What would you say, Judy, that you would like to leave my listeners with if you share just one truth that you want them to know about attachment or energy or mindfulness, any of these few things that we've touched on today?
Well, I would say that healing is possible at any age or stage in life. Sometimes people will say, well, I'm just locked in now. I'm this age, or this pattern has been here forever. I've been insecurely attached forever. Oh, I've been self-sabotaging forever, whatever the case may be. And it's almost like maybe people say that because they truly do feel defeated. But also sometimes I think people say that to protect themselves again. Like, well, if I don't actually put myself out there, then I won't fail. And then it's kind of a choice, right? I'm making a choice by saying that it's not going to change. But also, we only all have just this one life to live. And the decision to bravely confront whatever challenges you might have had in your past or to overcome something that has been challenging for you in the current time, that's definitely a brave move, but it's also so empowering when it works. And pretty much all of the time, it will at least work in some way or some extent, because you can always improve yourself. You can always improve the way you feel. You can always improve your brain. You can improve your memory. You can improve your thinking skills. You can build upon skills you have. You can develop new skills. I mean, this is what neuroplasticity is all about. And a lot of people will say, well, I'm older now. My brain's not as plastic, but there's so much research that suggests that your brain is neuroplastic until the day you die. So of course, as you get older, there's a little bit less flexibility, but it's not as much of a depreciation as most people think. So I definitely would just challenge that notion. And no matter who you are, how long you've been struggling, how old you are, I want you to know that you can change at any time and your brain is going to be excited that you want to.
Oh, I love that. So basically you're saying goodbye to those sayings that are, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and I am who I am. Right. Those are two things that always bother me. Those are two phrases where I'm like, yeah, that's just not true, right?
Right,
If
exactly.
you want to create change, you can. So thank you for empowering everyone listening today. You can change, and we have one of the most smartest people I've ever talked to just tell you that you can. So thank you so much, Dr. Judy, for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Erin, for the work that you're doing and for having me on your program. I so appreciate it.
Yes, you bet. Okay, everyone, until next time, you know where to find Dr. Judy. You know what to do. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends, your colleagues, and we'll be back soon.